All right. Hi, everybody. This is John McDougall with Murder by the Book. You guys might notice my background is different. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to come find us from Facebook and YouTube and all the other places. But as you will notice, I am actually not in my living room tonight. I am here in the bookstore. This is the first in-store bookstore event we've done since March 13th of last year. So we're so excited to actually be here in the store to do this. The downside is you guys will not be able to see Calvin, my cat, run around and cause all kinds of issues as the event is happening. If you guys have been catching these, you've seen him climb on bookcases behind me. You've seen him knock over tables behind me. So he is at home. He will not be making an appearance this evening. But tonight we're so excited to have Joanne Fluke here with us. But before I get her introduced, as I said, we're doing things a little bit differently. We're here in the store. So I wanted to mention, in case any... we've been having issues with some spammers pop up on our events. So if you see any links that pop up and ask you to click on a link and input credit card information to watch the event, don't do that. Don't click away to put in info to watch the event that you're already watching. Those are spam. If any of them pop up, I will be deleting and blocking those as soon as they come up. But sometimes people click on them a little bit faster than I can do that. So don't click on any of those. I wanted to mention, as I said, things will be doing a little bit different. I'm unmasked right now long enough to introduce, but then once I get Joanne introduced, I will put my mask back on. We're social distance. We've got a 6-foot table between us, so we're doing everything as safely as we can. Wanted to mention, we also have just gotten our second round of cozy subscription boxes sent out. So if you guys are not familiar with that, we just created a cozy subscription box called Murder by the Box in January. There is info on the Murder by the Book website to sign up for those. Basically what it is every month I will pick a new first in series cozy that I've loved, and we'll get those sent out for you. We have them available for in-store pickup or mail. They're also available in 3 or 12-month increments, so you can get more info about those on the store's website. I've dropped links to the website in the chat on both Facebook and YouTube. If you want to order books, we've got copies of Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder in stock. We have just a handful left that are signed. There was an issue with the recent Houston storm with our signing order getting delayed. So we do have a handful left. If you want to order personalized copies, make sure you get those orders in before the event ends. We also have signed book plates too. So if you would like a signed book plate to go with it, we have those. We do have a handful of copies of the Christmas Cupcake Murder available, and we also have lots of paperback copies of the Chocolate Chip Cookie Mystery available that are signed as well. We also have these really cool, I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see it, Hannah Swensen masks that we'll be shipping out with all of our orders. It says Go Team Swensen, and it's got Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder on there. Also wanted to mention a huge thank you to Larissa at Kensington for helping us get this set up, and also wanted to send out a big thanks to Kelly at Murder and Mayhem. Murder and Mayhem is the blog part of Open Road Media. They deliver the best in mystery and thrillers, from forgotten masterpieces of detective fiction's golden age to the latest heart-pounding tales and twisted suspense. On the hunt for a new FBI thriller, investigating which Nordic noir you should binge watch next, whether you're a Miss Marple fan or a Moriarty fan or Elizabeth Salander or even Hannibal Lecter, they've got you covered. They've got all kinds of great blog posts. They've been really helping us promote this, so we're so excited to be doing this partnership with them. You can sign up with their newsletter at the link that I just dropped into the chat. Also, as we're chatting with Joanne, if you guys have questions at home, please post those in the Facebook or YouTube comments. I'll leave some time for some Q&A when we are done. Also wanted to mention, if you purchase Triple Chocolate Cheesecake or Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder during the virtual event, we'll also send you a discount code that you can use on ebooks, prior books in the series, courtesy of Murder and Mayhem and Open Road Media. So I think that is all that I had for my general intro stuff. So I'm going to flip the camera around and get Joanne introduced. So her new book is Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder. If you guys are unfamiliar, Joanne Fluke is the New York Times bestselling author of the Hannah Swensen mysteries, which include Chocolate Cream Pie Murder, Raspberry Danish Murder, Cinnamon Roll Murder, and the book that started it all, Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder. That installment in the series premiered as Murder, She Baked, a chocolate chip cookie mystery on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries Channel. Like Hannah Swensen, Joanne Fluke was born and raised in a small town in rural Minnesota, but now lives in Southern California. You can visit her online at joannefluke.com. I'm going to bring her out. All right, Joanne, so you are on camera. How are you this evening?
I am great. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for asking me.
So one of the sad things about you being here this time is usually when you come, you bring these really great like baked treats. But since it's just the two of us, we don't have baked treats tonight.
No, I'm really sorry. We could show and everybody could, have a little mouth-watering thing. Yeah.
So hopefully, if you guys are watching this at home, you were enjoying some kind of delicious baked treat. So Joanne, to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about the newest book in the series, Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder?
Oh, yes, I can. I have been waiting years to write this book. I mean, really, seriously, years. This is the book I wanted to write. Oh, I could hardly wait. There is one character in Lake Eden, Minnesota, which is the venue where the books are set, that I have wanted to kill off. Oh my. I really don't like this character. And I finally did it. Oh, I was so excited. And the only problem is, Hannah Swensen, she can solve anything, even if one of her family members is a suspect in the murder. This book has lots of recipes. I mean, just oodles and oodles of recipes. And of course, the title recipe, Triple Chocolate Cheesecake, is just yummy. I made it, of course, I test all my recipes. I made it once and we tested it and it was absolutely delicious. But of course, one time is not enough. And I made it the second time and we tested that and ate it all, by the way, and it was delicious. And I think on the whole, I tested that recipe probably over a dozen times. So I think you're going to love it. The one thing I want to tell you about that recipe is the cover of the book has got this yummy picture of the recipe and chocolate cheesecake, triple chocolate cheesecake. And the layers are so beautifully done. It's one after the other, just beautifully done. Now, I am unable to make layers like that. That is the artist's rendition, my artist hero. It's his rendition of triple chocolate cheesecake. Mine doesn't exactly look like that, but hey, who cares? It is absolutely delicious.
So one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about is, a lot of times in cozy mysteries, we find the recipes are just kind of tucked in the back and they're not kind of an integral part of the book like yours are. So much so that you actually have like notes from Hannah telling people how to prepare them. So how did that come about and how did you decide to make them such a part of the story instead of just something that's kind of tucked in the back?
Well, actually, I had my mother's cookbook. My mother left notes in her cookbook saying, Joanne, if you make this, make sure the butter is at room temperature and things like that. She would put those in her cookbook, knowing that someday I would have her cookbook. And so I thought, hey, that's a good idea for Hannah to do with the recipes. And it was a lot of fun. So Hannah has her little notes in there. And occasionally I will put a note, Joanne's note, but not often because that kind of takes you out of the story. And I love the recipes at the end of the chapters and the fact that the recipes have sometimes a lot to do with what's happening in the story. And it's just, people say, which one do you do first? It's half of one, half of the other. Sometimes I will get the recipe first and I'll decide to write it in a specific chapter. Other times I will write the chapter and say, oh, what can I have Hannah make for dinner with her three sisters? Gee, this will be fun. And it's just part of the story. The recipes are part of the story.
And I like that you also include, like you said, you include ones that are like dinner recipes, and you also have dessert recipes too. So you kind of cover a wide range of things.
That's true. I'm especially fond of recently slow cooker recipes, crock pot things. And because Hannah, she works at the Cookie Jar, her bakery and coffee shop. So she doesn't have time to stay home and cook. And that's where she usually entertains. And so Hannah has to put something up, either to bake for a long time, all day while she's at work, or put it up in the crock pot and turn it on low. And when she gets home, she finishes it off. So I like to, that's sort of Hannah's thing, the crock pot. And it's also become Michelle, her youngest sister. It's become part of Michelle's life too, because Michelle now is teaching English at the local high school. So she works all day.
So Lindsay says that she just got a new stand mixer for her birthday and she can't wait to bake. When we've had a couple of people ask this question, do you have a favorite recipe from your books?
Oh, well, of course, a title recipe, but I have one I love. Now, the book is set at Easter time, and Hannah is baking for Easter celebrations in her bakery. And she made something that I got the biggest kick out of. And if you have kids in the room, you tell them they have to leave for a moment, please, especially if they don't like vegetables, because I have Easter Bunny's favorite pie squares, and they are not made with pumpkin. They are made with carrots. Would you believe it? Mashed carrots. And it's funny because I travel around with my friend Trudy, and she took a piece home to her husband. And this was the carrot one, the Easter Bunny's favorite pie square. And he tasted it and he said, "Oh, Trudy, that pumpkin pie is so good." She didn't tell him. I hope he's not watching this.
So Jesse wants to know, do you have any thoughts about doing a second Lake Eden cookbook?
Oh, yes. I have thoughts about it all the time. I do have enough recipes. I have more than enough recipes to do another one. The first book went from the recipes in Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder all the way up to the recipes in Carrot Cake Murder. And then we can start with the next book and go all the way through. And believe me, we're not at the end of Hannah's life yet. She is going to keep on baking and solving mysteries for, I hope, many years to come. So we will have enough for a second cookbook, and with any luck, a third.
So you are 27 books in the series with Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder.
I think it's 27.
Yeah, not including the holiday novellas and stuff that you did. So why did you feel like this book was the time to finally kill off the mayor?
I couldn't wait any longer. I mean, really, John, I just really couldn't. I could hardly wait to get rid of him. I really didn't like that man. So I figured he had to get his just desserts. That's what I should have named it,
So clearly most of the titles come from recipes. Do you start with a recipe that you know is going to be kind of the center of the book, or does that happen kind of as you're in the process of writing?
That happens both ways. I mean, sometimes my editor, John Scotamilio at Kensington, sometimes John suggests a recipe. And he doesn't suggest a recipe. He suggests a food. I mean, he doesn't have the recipe, but he'll say, well, as a matter of fact, he did that with blueberry muffin murder. That's hard to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what he did. He said, I love blueberry muffins. And why don't you call this one Blueberry Muffin Murder? And I said, well, there's a little problem with this. I don't have a good recipe for blueberry muffins. And he said, well, you make one up. Here's a man who probably, I don't know, maybe he heats something in the microwave, but that's about it. And so I thought, okay, what would I like a blueberry muffin to taste like that it doesn't taste like if I buy it in the store? And so I came up with my blueberry muffin recipe. And the funny thing is somebody in Iowa took it to the state fair. She made my blueberry muffins because they don't have to be original recipes for the person who brings it and bakes it. And it won a blue ribbon.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. I was very happy.
So where do you get the recipes from? Are they, you mentioned you had your mother's cookbook. Do people suggest them to you? Do you kind of
Yes.
engineer them yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
All those things, John. Actually, what sometimes the fans will send me their family recipes, their very favorites, and some will be like from a grandma or from grandpas. Any recipe that they really love that their family made, because when you go to somebody's house and you have something really really good, the next time you go to their house again, you sort of hoping they're going to make it again. And so these people, these fans, these Hannah fans will send me their favorite family recipe. And oh, of course, I'm going to try those out. And I will use one or two of those in every book. And then there's my mom's cookbook and my grandmother's cookbook. And I had 3 aunts and their cookbooks and the neighbors. I grew up in a small town, and the neighbors exchanged recipes. Even one lady in town, whose name I will not mention just in case anybody from that town is listening to this, she used to always leave out one ingredient. Every time we get a recipe, she would leave out something. So you'd make it and it wouldn't work right. You'd think, what is wrong? And finally, we realized what she was doing. And so we got together with our neighbors, because everybody would ask for that recipe. And then we'd go through the list of recipes and see how they differed. And we could sometimes find that ingredient, which is really good.
So would she leave a different ingredient out for each person that she gave it to?
No, but sometimes she'd forget and write down the ingredient, and then so she'd have to leave something else out. and that's what we look for. I mean, it was solving a mystery. It was kind of fun in a way.
So Larissa asks, is there a recipe from one of your books that you make at home over and over? And is there one from your books that your family and friends rave the most about?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Over and over. Yeah. Okay, there is one. It's a crock pot recipe, believe it or not. And it's that hunter's stew. Everybody adores that. And people will ask for that when they come over for dinner. And what was the other one that Larissa wanted?
So is there one that you make a lot for your own friends and family from out of the books?
Yeah, that's it. The hunter's stew is one. And also, well, I make a lot of muffins. I do make blueberry muffins, but there's so many muffin recipes in the books, and wonderful cupcakes. And I like to bake cakes. I just made one recently that is going in the next Hannah book.
So I've got not a question, but a comment from Susan. She says that she has never read any of your books, but has always been curious about them. And so she's excited to hear the talk tonight, and she thinks she'll give them a try. Do you think that people can jump in with Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder, or do you think that they should start with the first one?
Well, you could go either way. The books are supposed to be you can read them in order, and then you get an idea of Hannah's life, and but you can jump in because each story is individually. It ends. Each story ends one way or another. Sometimes there's a cliffhanger. I got to warn you. A couple times there have been. But each story is complete in itself. And so you could just jump in with Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder. But then again, if you want to start at the beginning with Hannah, get Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder.
And as I mentioned, if you pre-order or if you order Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder, we will send you a ebook discount code. So if you want to go back and read earlier ones in the series, you can do that as well. So as I said, you're like 27 books into the series. You've created this wonderful world with all of these characters that pop in and out of the books. How do you keep track of kind of where people are in the timeline? Do you have like a series Bible, or do you have like a timeline, or do you just keep it all in your head?
Actually, I have a character list, and most of it is in the character list. And it's so, in a way, it's like a series Bible, but I didn't start out doing it that way. I started out doing the character list when there were less people. Now there are a whole lot of people. I mean, really, that list is getting very long. I have one for characters by last name, one for characters by first name, because sometimes I can't remember the last name, you know? And then I also have a list by the places in Lake Eden, you know, the stores and things. So I want to get the name right. And the churches and the school, you know, the elementary school and the high school. Yeah. And sometimes the roads, I've got lists. Okay, what did I call that highway? What did I call that gravel road? Yeah, I have lists.
So do you have a map of Lake Eden drawn out?
Actually, my cover artist did one, and it is in the first Lake Eden cookbook. And there's a picture of Lake Eden in there, and it's got several things named, several stores named, and also there's where Hannah lives, where her condo is, and the hotel, and all sorts of things like that are in there. And he did such a marvelous job, and it's in the book.
So again, like we said, 27 books into the series. How do you think Hannah's grown over the series, and has she grown in any way that has surprised you?
Yeah, she surprises me every once in a while. She really does. Hannah is so nice. She really is a nice person. I mean, I tried to, when I first thought I was going to write about Hannah, at the very first book, I wanted to describe a best friend. I mean, I have several best friends, but I wanted to describe the absolute ideal best friend. And that was how I came up with Hannah. You know, somebody that would bake goodies for me, and somebody that was kind and sweet and loved animals and all this stuff. And so, yeah, that's how I came up with Hannah. Definitely.
And so before you were doing the Hannah Swensen books, you were doing kind of more thrillers. So what made you decide to move from thrillers into kind of lighter, cozy mysteries?
That's a big part of my life. Okay, I did these books that were called, you're right, it's thrillers. And at that time they were called psychological thrillers. And I wrote a bunch of those. Yeah. And I did enjoy it, but you know, it was scary. John, they scared me half to death. And in the writing of every single book, it would get to me after a while. Before I was to bed, I'd have a nightmare. And I would get really scared, and I'd scream and wake up. And my husband would snap on the light and go, "What's wrong, honey?" And I'd say, oh, I had this awful nightmare. I think it's the book I'm writing. And he'd say, okay, all right, just calm down. I'm going to leave on the light. I'm going to go in the kitchen, and I'm going to make you this really nice cup of hot chocolate. And we'll sit here. I'll make one for me too. And we'll sit up in bed and we'll drink the hot chocolate, and you'll feel better. And so he'd do that every time I had a nightmare. Well, I wrote 10 thrillers. And every book I'd have 2-3 nightmares. And finally, we got to the 10th book. Now, this poor man has made me countless cups of hot chocolate and left the light on and says, "Oh, honey, what's wrong?" You know, he's just been the best patient soul that you could ever wish for. Well, okay, on the 10th book, I wake up with another nightmare. And I said, well, this is awful. And he, wait, I'll turn on the light. He turns on the light and he says, "Another nightmare?" I thought, that doesn't sound very sympathetic. And I said, "Yeah, I think it's the book I'm writing." And he said, "Honey, why don't you write something else?" And guess what? Hannah was born.
So when you were first starting the series, had you read other cozy mysteries? Were you familiar with the genre?
Slightly. When I started, my editor asked me if I would like to. I said, I got to get out of writing thrillers, right? And he said, well, why don't you try a cozy mystery series? And I said, what's a cozy mystery? And he said, well, it's a book that really doesn't have any bad language. Well, he said naughty language. Okay. No naughty language. You don't actually see the murder in all of its gory detail. And what was the third thing? I don't remember offhand. But, and the crime is always solved.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought, well, why not? And I said, okay. So I wrote Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder. And I enjoyed that so much that I wanted to keep on going. And that was book one.
So when you started that one, did you have an idea that it was going to be a long series, or did you just write that first one thinking, I'm going to write this one book and see what's going to happen?
I was hoping it would be a series because I enjoyed it so much, but I really didn't know. And luckily, it turned into quite a long-running series.
One of the things I also love about the series is, and a lot of times in cozy mysteries, our young heroine is trying to solve a mystery, and she butts heads with the local police department, and they're always telling her, no, you need to stay out of this. No, you need to stay out of this. I love in this series that the police actually know that Hannah's investigating these, and they actually ask her for a peek at her murder book and all of the clues.
I like that too. I think Mike Kingston, the head of the detective squad at the Winnetka County Sheriff's Department, has kind of said, okay, fine, she's going to do it anyway. She's stubborn. She wants to do this. And, well, maybe we can work together sometimes. I mean, he's really coming around. And I like that because that shows Mike is growing. And Hannah has managed to kind of bring him around, which is nice. Yeah. But he still can say, you let me handle this part of it,
Yeah, I like the scene in this one where they sit down and she's like, okay, I'll show you one of my suspects if you'll show me one of yours. It's really fun to see them kind of work collaboratively.
Exactly right. Because there for a while, she was very upset with Mike because he would never really give her much information on his end, but he'd expect her to come up with everything that she had done that would help him. And that kind of bothered Hannah. And Mike finally just came around and said, okay, fine. I really would rather that you let me handle this, but you're going to do it anyway. So I might as well take advantage of that because you're good at it. He said, it's too bad you're not a cop. He said that to her once.
So we've got a question. Would you ever have Hannah start making and selling gluten-free treats at the cookie jar? She would love to see some gluten-free Hannah recipes.
So what?
Gluten-free?
Oh, no, I can't. I can't do that. I will tell you why. It's I don't know that much about nutrition. And I'm not a medical person. And I would be scared to death if I started writing, for instance, gluten-free and fat-free and sugar-free recipes. I'd be really afraid that I would make a mistake and somebody would get sick, and I wouldn't want that on my conscience. So there are specialty cookbooks for all of those things. And I think you should go to somebody that is qualified to make up those recipes. So I just use the normal ingredients.
Yeah. So Rebecca wants to know, what did you think of the Hallmark series?
At first I was a little freaked about this, Rebecca, because I didn't think Allison looked like Hannah at all. For one thing, Hannah's not blonde, you know. Hannah has red hair, and it's really kind of as she says, I use a curry comb on my hair. Of course, she's kidding, but still, you know, it's kind of it's too curly, and it's her. She got it from her daddy. Her daddy had curly red hair, but but it's. I forgot what you asked. I'm sorry.
Just generally what you thought of the series.
Oh, and so I was a little upset. I was just a little upset that she was blonde, that Allison was blonde. And then I got used to it because she was so good in those movies. She was really good. And so I started thinking of her not as my Hannah or you reading the book, Rebecca, as your Hannah. I started thinking of Hannah as Allison as the Hollywood Hannah. And that made everything okay for me. And she is wonderful at it. She really is good. And by the way, I have a little news. Yes, there may be, I hope, another Hannah movie because my book has been optioned and it's going to be the one at the spa. Remember when the lady gets killed at the spa? Okay, what was the name of that one? Oh, I'm trying to think. See, I can't remember the names of the books. Ooh, wait a minute. Cream Puff Murder. There, we got it. Cream Puff Murder. And that book has been optioned for a movie. So I'm really hoping, and Allison would be in it, yes. And I am really hoping they make that one because that would be fun because it's Murder at the Spa. I love that. The spa's name is Heavenly Bodies. So I get a kick out of that.
Congrats on the deal. That's exciting. One of the things I love about Hallmark doing these is, one, it brings more people to the books, but it also gives us as booksellers kind of almost a shorthand when we're trying to explain to people what a cozy mystery is. To say like it's kind of a Hallmark movie where there's a murder off screen, and it's been really nice to see, especially now with kind of the world being the way the world is right now. So many people are looking for those kind of wonderful comfort things. It's nice to have that shorthand.
Well, it's good because a lot of people are, you know, they're stuck at home, and the kids want to watch TV with them, and the kids could probably watch a Hannah movie because there's no swearing in it or anything like that, you know, and you don't see the murder, as you say. So, you know, it's entirely possible that, well, I know kids like them because I've heard from kids that like to watch the movies. So it's nice in these times. You're absolutely right.
It's kind of cool too because like I remember growing up, like when we would go visit grandparents and stuff like that, we would always be watching Columbo or Murder She Wrote and like all of these mystery shows. So it's kind of nice to also have that kind of like you said, they're good enough that like kids can watch them and kind of get kids interested in the genre as well.
Yeah.
Chris wants to know, and you'll be able to answer this, I guess, however non-spoiler or spoiler you want. What's going to happen with Hannah in the romance department?
I'll be turned to find out. I mean, really, guys, I don't know. Hannah, I hope she finds the right mate someday. I don't know when that's going to happen. I do occasionally wish that I could communicate with Moisha because Moisha might have a secret or two to tell me, but I don't know. I don't know when she's going to find her person. She does love Norman. She really does. Norman is the sweetest guy. He is so supportive and bright, and he's just so good to her. And she really loves Mike because Mike is so sexy, you know, and she's crazy about both of them. I think if she could somehow take Mike on one hand and Norman on the other hand and roll them into one, Hannah would be dashing down that church aisle.
So speaking of Moisha, Jesse wants to know, how is Moisha doing?
Moisha's doing good. Moisha has been spending a lot of time with Cuddles. Cuddles is Norman's cat. Cuddles is a sweet little cat. And they play, they have a lot of fun together. And Moisha, I think Moisha likes living with Hannah and just without another cat. But I think he kind of wanted a little companionship of his own. And now he's got Cuddles as a friend, and that's wonderful. And I don't know what else is going to happen with Moisha, but it's fun when Cuddles and Moisha play.
So what are some of the challenges of writing a series or a book with a cat like Moisha, who's such a part of the story? Do you ever find that you have to like remember, oh, we haven't seen Moisha in a while, I need to make sure that I put them in the scene? Or does Moisha just kind of wander in and out as wanted?
Moisha wanders in and out as Moisha wants.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. I do. Moisha can be very funny.
Mhm.
And I do ask occasionally. Hannah fans will send me stories about their cats. So if any of you have cats that have done something just hysterically funny, please email me through the website, because I would love to know, because I'm kind of running out of antics for Moisha. I mean, I have at home a half a cat. Now, that sounds weird, but this cat is my neighbor's cat. And I also have a little dog, one little dog left. And his companion died. Well, the cat next door decided she wanted to come over and just run around my house and my backyard. And it's all fenced in. So she goes over the fence and she comes in the doggy door. And Bernie, my dog, likes her very much. He doesn't chase her. He likes her. And so when I'm in there in my computer and I'm typing, I have a great big dog bed, which is much too big for Bernie. But I will find Cleo the cat cuddled up with Bernie in that bed when I turn around, because I hear this, it's sort of like beeping in the distance, like beep, beep, beep. They're snoring. They're sleeping. I'm working away and they're sleeping. And she stays there all day. And they will occasionally go out the dog door and run around the yard, but they come back in. And then when my next door neighbor gets home, Cleo hears the car and when mommy comes home. So she runs out, jumps the fence again, goes home to eat. Yeah. And the nice thing is I don't have to have a kitty litter box.
So Patricia wants to know, what kind of reader feedback did you get when you have ended books with cliffhangers?
What kind of what?
Reader feedback?
Do I get? I get a lot. I get a lot. People like to tell me what they liked about a book, and sometimes they tell me what they didn't like about a book, or they tell me they made a recipe. And oh, by the way, I've got something up on Instagram. I didn't do this. My friend Tammy did, and it's up there, and she has pictures, photos of all the baked goods that are in the Hannah books that fans have sent her, so you can see what the finished product looks like. And it's perfect to have all that. And they will sometimes they criticize the recipe, or sometimes they have suggestions for the recipe. Like I got one the other day, somebody said, I really think that what you ought to do with that triple chocolate cheesecake is put cherries on the top.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking, oh, that's lethal. Oh my gosh. Cherry pie filling was what he said. Oh gosh. Oh boy. I don't know. It would be good. Yeah. Chocolate and cherry is a wonderful combination. Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes tell me about the recipes, and they like this or they don't like that.
Mhm.
Or and sometimes they'll ask me what they did wrong, which I always say, gee, I wish I could come to your kitchen and see you make it. And maybe I could figure it out. But this way I'm clueless. I don't know. It worked for me. And of course, I do test all the recipes myself, and I have somebody else test them too. So, it's got to work. It's got to work at least 3 times.
So,
and you have to go in a book.
So if you guys are watching, I also just dropped a link to the Instagram account that Joanne was talking about, so you can see all of the fan recipes. So that's there.
Oh, good.
So Alice wants to know why, this is just a general recipe question. Why do so many recipes in the books say not to sift the flour?
Alice, a lot of people have asked me that. And I'll tell you, the reason I do that is because sifted flour, some people will sift it like 5 times, and it's really loose in that cup. So, of course, there's a lot less flour in that cup than somebody that would only sift it once. And so you don't know how many times to sift it, and you don't know what kind of sifter they're using. And it's just, if you pack it down in the cup, it'll only pack so much. I mean, before it starts coming out the top. So if you pack it real hard in the cup, then you have an amount that is equal each time. And so that is why I do that. It's a strange way of doing it, but that's the way my grandma did it. That's the way my mother did it. That's the way my aunts did it. And I thought, okay, I'll do it that way. It made sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you.
So Susan asked if you were sitting at home in your personal library. Susan, if you're watching, we're actually here at Murder by the Book bookstore. And so she wants to know, Joanne, what kind of books or genres do you prefer to read?
Oh, boy. Well, one thing I love to read are recipe books. I get a kick out of reading cookbooks. I really do. I really enjoy. There is something weird. I know my friend Trudy does this, and I can do it. And I have a feeling a lot of you out there can do it who bake or cook. We can read through a recipe, and we can almost taste. It's like we know what it will taste like when we're finished with it. And maybe it's just the fact that, if you bake that much or you cook that much, you just get used to the ingredients that you're using. And so, but I don't know. That's just one of the weird things.
And so then do you read in the cozy mystery genre, or do you try to read outside of it since you write it?
I try to read outside. Yeah. I really do. Part of it is, this is the reason why when people write to me and ask me if I will read and criticize a few chapters that they would send me, I don't want them to do it, because sometimes when I read, it goes around in my head, and if you read like I do an awful lot, you forget where you got the idea. You think it might be yours. And so I might use somebody else's idea, and I really don't want to do that. So I would say, no, I can't read it. I can offer you a little bit of advice, but do not send it to me. I don't want the responsibility, just in case, because maybe I'm already thinking along those lines, and I don't want, I don't want you to think that I ever stole your idea. Yeah. This is why.
Yeah, Dean James, who used to be the store manager here for years and writes the Cat in the Stacks mysteries under the name Miranda James, he says, because he's a huge cozy reader too, but when he's actually working on his new book, he can't read any other things in the genre, so he'll read historical mysteries or nonfiction and other stuff like that. And then when he turns in his book, then his reward for himself is to actually go back and catch up on all the cozies that he missed.
Yeah, I don't read cozies for that reason. Yeah. I don't want to be influenced,
Yeah. Kathy wants to know, did you get to choose Suzanne Torin for the audiobooks?
Did I do what?
Did you choose Suzanne Torin, the audiobook narrator?
No, I did not. The audiobooks, actually, that was a company called Recorded Books. They are the ones that did the audio from the very beginning. And she was the one that did the very first one. And I think she's done them all.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
So we mentioned it briefly. You also, in addition to doing the full-length novels, you've also done holiday novellas with other authors like Leslie Meyer, Lee Hollis. Yep. So how do you decide if a story is big enough for a full novel or not big enough and will just work as a novella?
Well, page count, actually. Yeah, I mean, you can't go into as much detail if you're doing a novella because there's not enough pages. Yeah. You can't do it. And so I try to make the stories a little simpler. I'm not, the Christmas books I do, like Christmas Cupcake Murder, are slightly shorter, but really not much shorter than the regular Hannah novels. So I sort of stopped doing novellas because they're kind of limiting. And I'd rather write a full-length book, or almost full-length, because it gives me more room to really get into my characters.
And I imagine it would be hard too if you're doing a novella, but you also want to include the recipes in it too. Then that's going to inhibit your page count even more because you want to still have the feel of the books.
That's exactly right. I didn't even think of that before, but you're absolutely right.
So since you're doing a full-length book and then potentially a Christmas book every year, what is your writing process or what is your writing day-to-day life like?
Oh, it's busy. It is very busy. I have started to get up very, very early. I get up and wake up at 4 a.m. every day. And I, of course, have to be fully caffeinated. So I drink a lot of coffee real fast. And then I go in and sit in front of my computer and I work. And that is mostly because there are no disturbances at 4:30 in the morning. The telephone solicitors are not calling me and offering me all sorts of wonderful things at 4:30 in the morning. And so I get some uninterrupted work time, which is great because there's nothing worse than when you're in the middle of the scene and you're typing away on your computer and the phone rings and it's somebody, trying to, hi, we're working in your neighborhood, No, I don't want any work done. Goodbye. It's that it takes you right out of what you're doing. So I like to get up early and work when there's no interrupting.
And so do you outline the books or do you kind of fly by the seat of your pants as you're writing?
I used to outline just in great detail. I no longer do it in great detail, mostly because I know my characters now. There are recurring characters in every single book. So since I know them so well, I don't have to every time write down what they do and all this. But I used to outline just in great detail. And I don't use that detail anymore, but I have the guts of the story in there. And one thing I do in my outlines, which I'm sure my editor, it just makes him mad, I'm sure. One thing I do is I do not tell you who the killer is in the outline because I don't want anybody to give it away in the little blurb they put at the beginning of the book, Yeah. And they have done that to me a couple times. So, sorry.
So other than Hannah, who is your favorite character to write?
Oh boy, they change. They really change. Yeah. Other than Hannah, okay, Hannah's family. Yeah. I have a lot of fun with Michelle. She's younger. And I have a lot of fun with, Grandma Knudsen, the Lutheran minister's grandmother. Oh, she is fun. Grandma Knudsen says exactly what's on her mind. And I love that, And Dolores, Dolores has come a long ways in these books. Really, she has. She has turned into, I think, a much better mother than she was when we first started. But, everybody grows. Also, now that Dolores is married, again, you know, Hannah's dad died. And so now that she's married again, she's a lot happier too. So I love writing Dolores. Let's see. And of course, Andrea. Andrea's fun. Andrea, who's married to the Winnetka County Sheriff, Bill. Andrea is Hannah's sister. And Andrea is the one who has had terrible baking disasters. I mean, Andrea once invited Hannah over in one of the books for lunch. And Hannah said, "What are we having?" And Andrea said, "Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches." And Hannah thought that was just a wonderful idea. She likes peanut butter and jelly. And Andrea served peanut and mint jelly. Yes. I think it was on raisin bread. I can't remember, but oh my gosh. And that it has been a lot of fun to write about Andrea. You crack the eggs, but you said put in 4 eggs, and things like this. But Andrea did learn how to bake one thing very, very well, and those are the whippersnapper cookies, the ones with Cool Whip in them. Maybe that's why they're called whippersnapper. But she's been very innovative with whippersnapper cookies, and every book now has one.
So we've been talking about Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder, which is the new one that just came out today. But can you give us a little bit of a hint about what's coming up next?
Yes, what's going to happen next?
Or when the next book is coming out. What's next for Hannah? Yeah,
I can give you a title.
Okay.
The title is Caramel Pecan Roll Murder.
Ooh.
I know. I'm working on a minute I get home. I am working on that.
Yeah.
I've got to work on the recipe for that because I love caramel. I mean, it's one of my very favorite. I love pecans, and I love rolls for breakfast. Obviously, I love breakfast foods, including donuts and everything else. But every time I finish a book, I have to go on a diet, of course. And so this book will be out. That will be the next big Hannah. So as usual, it will be like the last Tuesday in February, and it'll be a March book. Mm-hmm.
And then are you doing a Christmas one for 2021 as well?
No, not for that year. I may do. It got to be too much writing 2 books a year.
No.
I just couldn't do it. So I decided every other year.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do now.
All right. So I think that just about brings us to time for the evening. So thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to flip this camera back around one more time. Joanne, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Flip this back around. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Before we wrap up, I wanted to mention a couple things. If you missed any part of the event, you can catch it when we're done. Facebook and YouTube will archive it. Sometimes YouTube takes just a little bit longer than Facebook does, but you'll be able to watch it from the beginning. Also, if you're on the YouTube channel, I have created a cozy playlist. So all of our Cozy Author events are on that playlist, as well as some of our in-store staff recommendation videos. So definitely make sure you check that out. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up. At the end of the week, if you guys are familiar with Charlaine Harris, I know most people know her from the True Blood books. She also got her start doing the Aurora Tea Garden movies on Hallmark. We'll be chatting with her about her new Gunny Rose book. We've got some really great stuff coming up in, I'm just pulling up the calendar here while we're chatting. We've got some great stuff coming up in April with Kensington. We've got Emmeline Duncan's got a new book coming out. Erica Ruth Neubauer will be chatting with her. So lots of great stuff coming up. So please continue to check out the store's website for more info. As I said, we are now open for browsing. So if you guys want to come in, we also understand not everybody is kind of getting out and about in the world. So if you still prefer curbside pickup, you can always give us a call. We're happy to set stuff outside or recommend books over the phone. We do still have a handful of signed copies of Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder available. As we mentioned, when you order, we also have the Triple Chocolate Cheesecake masks that we'll tuck in there for you. We've also got signed paperbacks of Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder, and we also have a few handful of signed copies of this 2020's Christmas book as well. So again, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Thanks one more time to Joanne Fluke for flying to Houston and hanging out with us. And like I said, being our first actual author event in the store in over a year. Big thanks to Larissa at Kensington for helping us get this set up, and also with Kelly over at Murder and Mayhem for helping promote the event, and all of you guys for tuning in and having your great questions. So everybody take care, and we will see you soon. Thanks so much.